Listen, if this story saves even one man from making the same mistake I made 10 years ago, well, actually, let me be clear about what that mistake was. The mistake wasn't falling in love with Ploy. The mistake was almost walking away because of what everyone else told me she had to be. My name is David Thompson. I'm 62 years old, sitting in my kitchen in Chiang Mai right now, watching my 8-year-old daughter Nim practice her piano, while my wife Ploy makes her famous green curry after her 12-hour shift at the hospital where she works as head nurse of the pediatric ward. 10 years ago, I was told by every expat forum, every barstool expert, every bitter divorced man in Pattaya, I was about to become another statistic. She's playing the long game, mate. Just wait until she gets her hands on your pension. They're all the same, sweet as honey, until they've got what they want. I almost believed them. I almost walked away from the love of my life because I was scared of being that stupid old fool everyone talks about on the internet forums. But here's the thing. Sometimes the stupid old fool is the guy who doesn't take the chance when real love is staring him in the face. This is that story, and it's messier, scarier, and more beautiful than any of those warnings prepared me for. December 2014, Manchester, England. I'm sitting in my empty house at 2 in the morning, drunk on Macallan whiskey that cost more than I used to spend on groceries in a month, reading divorce papers for the 100th time. Sarah had taken half of everything, and my dignity along with it. 25 years of marriage ended because I was emotionally unavailable, and she needed passion, which apparently meant sleeping with her 28-year-old yoga instructor Marcus in our marital bed while I was working overtime at the accounting firm to pay for her spa weekends and wine club memberships. I was 52 and felt like 80. My reflection in the bathroom mirror looked like my father after his heart attack. Grey, defeated, wondering where the hell my life had gone wrong. The house felt like a mausoleum. Every room held memories of a marriage that had been dying for years while I was too busy or too stubborn to notice. The wake-up call came when I found myself Googling quickest way to at 3 in the morning. I stopped typing, but the moment scared me sober. The next morning, I was in Dr. Mitchell's office. He was blunt, the way only your family doctor can be after knowing you for 15 years. "David," he said, leaning back in his chair, "you're going to drink yourself to death or have a complete breakdown. Possibly both. Take the early retirement package your firm offered. Go somewhere warm. Reset your entire bloody life before you don't have one left to reset. Thailand wasn't even my idea. My colleague Pete Hartwell had been there 3 times in the past 2 years. Mate," he said over lunch at the pub, "it's paradise. Cheap massages, incredible food, and the people are lovely. Just get yourself sorted. Trust me on this one. I booked 2 weeks in Pattaya because it was the only Thai destination I'd ever heard of. I didn't know about the reputation. I didn't know about Walking Street. I didn't know about bar girls or go-go bars or any of that world. I just knew it was 12,000 miles from Manchester and Sarah and the life that had imploded around me, and that seemed about right. The flight to Bangkok was my first time out of Europe. 13 hours to think about what the hell I was doing with my life. The man sitting next to me was a German guy in his 60s named Klaus, who'd been living in Thailand for 8 years. "Best decision I ever made," he said. "But be careful. Thailand changes you. Sometimes for the better, sometimes not. Depends on what you're looking for." I didn't know what I was looking for. I just knew I needed to find something different than what I'd been. The first week was exactly what Dr. Mitchell ordered. Pool time at the hotel, reading books I'd been meaning to read for years. Real Thai food that actually made me excited about meals again, instead of the microwave dinners for one that had become my routine. Legitimate Thai massages for the back pain I'd been ignoring. Slowly, very slowly, I started to feel human again. But by day 8, the loneliness was crushing. Hotel room dinners watching BBC World News, surrounded by couples and families enjoying their holidays, feeling like the loneliest man in Southeast Asia. Every night, I'd sit on my balcony with a Singer beer, watching the sunset and wondering what the hell I was supposed to do with the rest of my life. Walking street on a Thursday night in January. I'd avoided it for a week, but curiosity finally won. The neon lights, the noise, the absolute chaos of it all. It was like stepping into a different world, a different planet. Tuk-tuks weaving through crowds, street vendors selling everything from grilled squid to fake Rolex watches, music pouring out of every doorway. And the bars. So many bars, each one louder and more chaotic than the last. I found the quietest place I could, a bar called Lucky 7 that seemed to have more empty seats than customers. I ordered a Leo beer and tried to blend into the background, just watching the world go by. That's when I saw her. Corner booth, as far from the music and the madness as you could get in a place like that. Baseball cap pulled low over her face, completely absorbed in a book. Not just any book. I could see the cover from where I was sitting. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel García Márquez, in English. While around her, girls in sparkly dresses and high heels danced on small stages and chatted up customers. She was in her own world, turning pages like she was sitting in a library instead of a Pattaya bar. I've always been a reader. Books were my escape during the divorce proceedings, my sanctuary when the house felt too empty. Seeing someone else completely lost in García Márquez in a place like this was like finding a fellow refugee from reality. I walked over to her table, my heart beating faster than it had in months. "Good book?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She looked up, startled, like she'd forgotten where she was. Beautiful, yes, but not in the obvious way of the other girls in the bar. No makeup, tired eyes, but when she smiled, something in my chest shifted. "Very confusing," she said in careful English, "but beautiful. You know this book?" "One of my favorites," I told her. "The magical realism takes getting used to, but it's worth it." "Magical realism," she repeated, like she was tasting the words. "Yes, like Thailand, maybe. Beautiful and confusing." I asked if I could sit down. She gestured to the empty chair across from her. Her name was Ploy, which she told me meant gem or jewel in Thai. She was 28 years old, from a village in Isan province that I'd never heard of. The book was for her literature class at Chiang Mai University, where she was studying part-time. "At the bar?" I asked, immediately regretting how judgmental it sounded. She didn't flinch, didn't get defensive. "Yes," she said simply. "At the bar. Also at a hotel restaurant in the morning, cleaning offices at night. 3 jobs to pay for university and help my family." I felt like a complete ass. Here I was, drowning in self-pity about my divorce settlement that had left me comfortable enough to retire early, talking to someone working 3 jobs to educate herself. "What are you studying?" I asked. "English literature," she said, closing the book and giving me her full attention. "My dream is to teach, maybe even become university lecturer someday." We talked until closing time, not about what you'd expect in a place like that. We talked about books, about her village, about why she'd chosen English literature over more practical degrees, like business or accounting. She asked about my life in England, about my work, about what had brought me to Thailand. I found myself telling her about the divorce, about feeling lost and purposeless. She listened without judgment, asking thoughtful questions. When I asked why she'd chosen literature over something that might pay better, her answer stopped me cold. "Because stories matter," she said. "They show us we're not alone in our suffering, and they show us that change is possible." I felt that truth in my bones. But here's what I didn't know then. What nobody tells you about these moments when your life changes direction. There's always a price to pay, always consequences you can't see coming. And sometimes, just sometimes, those consequences are worth every penny. The next night, I came back. And the night after that. always to that corner booth, always to talk to Ploy. She'd bring her textbooks, I'd bring my Kindle, and we'd discuss everything from García Márquez to Graham Greene to the cultural differences between British and Thai humor. I learned that she'd grown up in a family of rice farmers, that she was the first person in her extended family to attend university. Her younger brother Niran was brilliant at mathematics and had been accepted to study engineering, but only because Ploy had been working multiple jobs since she was 20 to pay for his education. "Why not study something that pays better?" I asked one night. "Business, maybe, or computers." "Because money is not everything," she said. "If I become teacher, maybe I can help other kids from poor families see that education is possible. Maybe I can change some lives." I'd never met anyone so young who thought about life in terms of service to others. At 28, she had more purpose and direction than I'd had at 52. On my last night, I worked up the courage to ask her to dinner, a real restaurant, away from the bar environment. She hesitated, and I could see the internal debate in her eyes. "I don't date customers," she said finally. "I'm not a customer," I replied. "I've never paid for anything except my own drinks. I'm just a guy who likes talking to you." She studied my face for a long moment. "Okay," she said, "but Dutch treat. I pay for myself." Even then, she was protecting her independence, making sure there were no misunderstandings about what this was or wasn't. We went to a small seafood restaurant overlooking Pattaya beach. 3 hours of conversation that felt like 30 minutes. She told me about growing up poor in Assam, about watching her father work himself to exhaustion in the rice fields during planting and harvest seasons, about making a promise to herself when she was 15 that education would be her way out of that cycle. I told her about Sarah, about feeling like I'd wasted 25 years trying to be someone I wasn't, about being terrified that at 52 I'd missed my chance at real happiness or connection with another human being. "Maybe," she said, stirring her tom yum soup thoughtfully, "we don't find happiness waiting for us somewhere. Maybe we build it, day by day, choice by choice." When it was time to say goodbye at the end of the evening, she hugged me. Just a brief, friendly hug, but I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. The flight back to Manchester was torture. I kept replaying our conversations, wondering if I'd imagined the connection, wondering if I was being a foolish old man reading too much into kindness from a young woman. But when I got home to my empty house, I couldn't stop thinking about her. I sent her an email 3 days later, just saying thank you for the conversations and the dinner, and asking how her classes were going. She wrote back the same day. Her message was thoughtful, funny, full of details about her literature course and her family. She sent me photos of her village, of the sunset over the rice fields, of her younger brother Niran in his school uniform after receiving an academic award. We started emailing regularly, then moved to video calls twice a week. Our conversations became the best part of my day. She'd tell me about her classes, about books she was reading, about her family's rice harvest. I'd tell her about my attempts to cook Thai food in Manchester, about the books I was reading, about my growing certainty that I'd been sleepwalking through life for years. 3 months later, I booked another trip to Thailand. This time, I wasn't just visiting Pattaya, I was visiting Ploy. She met me at Bangkok airport, and seeing her again, I realized I hadn't imagined the connection. If anything, it was stronger. She'd arranged time off from her jobs and her classes to spend a week with me. This visit was completely different from the first. She showed me her Thailand, temples I'd never heard of, where monks in saffron robes went about their daily prayers while tourists snapped photos. Local markets where I was the only foreigner, where she translated conversations with vendors selling everything from fresh fish to hand-carved wooden bowls. Street food that would have terrified me 3 months earlier, but now seemed like adventures in flavor. The moment I knew for certain happened in a tuk-tuk heading to Wat Pho Temple in Bangkok. We were stuck in the legendary Bangkok traffic, moving about 2 feet every 5 minutes, and she was pointing out different buildings and telling me their stories. A street vendor walked by selling jasmine garlands, and without thinking, I bought one and put it in her hair. She went quiet, touching the flowers gently. "David," she said softly, "are you sure about this? About us?" "Sure about what?" I asked, though I knew exactly what she meant. "You know what people think," she said. "Foreign man, Thai woman working in bar. They think they know this story already. They think they know how it ends." I took her hand. "I don't care what people think," I said. "I care about you. I care about us." But I could see the doubt in her eyes, the weight of every assumption, every stereotype, every cautionary tale she'd heard about relationships between Western men and Thai women. She wasn't just worried about her own heart. She was worried about her reputation, her family's honor, her entire future. That night, in her small apartment near Chiang Mai University, she'd moved out of the bar world months earlier and was working as a freelance translator instead. She was unusually quiet. We were sitting on her small balcony, looking out over the city lights, when she finally spoke. "My friend Som," she said. "She was with German man for 2 years. He promised to marry her, brought her to Germany, gave her everything she thought she wanted. Then he left her for someone younger, someone who reminded him of me when he first met me," he said. "She's back in the village now, and everyone says she was stupid to trust a foreigner." I understood then. She wasn't just risking her heart. In a culture where family honor and community reputation matter deeply, she was risking everything. "Ploy," I said, choosing my words carefully. "I can't promise I'll never hurt you. No one can promise that. But I can promise I'm not here to use you or play games. I'm here because I've never connected with anyone the way I connect with you." She studied my face for a long time in the dim light from the street below. Then she kissed me. Our first kiss. Tentative, sweet, full of possibility and fear and hope all mixed together. The next morning, she made a decision that surprised both of us. "I want you to meet my family," she said over breakfast. "If we're going to try this, really try it. They need to know who you are." Meeting her family was absolutely terrifying. A 3-hour bus ride from Chiang Mai to a village whose name I couldn't pronounce, let alone spell, to meet people who spoke no English, to be judged by a family that had every reason in the world to be suspicious of foreign men making promises to their daughter. The village was nothing like I'd expected. Not the poverty-stricken rural area I'd imagined, but a community of small farms and modest houses, with a temple at its center and rice fields stretching to the horizon. Ploy's family home was simple, but clean and comfortable, with a small shrine in one corner and family photos covering most of one wall. Her father, Somsak, was a rice farmer, with hands like leather and eyes that seemed to see right through me. 60 years old, but looking older, weathered by decades of physical labor under the Thai sun. Her mother, Meili, was tiny but fierce, the kind of woman who could run a household and command respect with just a look. The first evening was awkward beyond description. I sat on a mat on the floor, trying to eat sticky rice with my hands without making a complete fool of myself, while the entire extended family, it seemed like dozens of aunts, uncles, and cousins, took turns asking Ploy questions about me in rapid Thai. Ploy translated the highlights later that evening. "My mother wants to know if you're married," she said. "Divorced," I replied. "She wants to know why your wife left you." I thought about lying, about making myself look better, about blaming Sarah for everything that went wrong. But something in Ploy's eyes told me that honesty was the only chance I had. "I worked too much," I said. "I forgot how to make her happy. I became someone she didn't recognize, and eventually, neither did I." Ploy translated. Her mother nodded grimly and said something that made everyone at the table laugh. She says, "At least you're honest about being a bad husband," Ploy told me, smiling. She says that's better than the men who blame their wives for everything. The ice began to break the next day when I asked Somsak if I could help with the rice farming. Through Ploy's translation, I learned that it was harvest season and every available hand was needed. I spent the day bent over in flooded rice paddies, my back screaming, my hands blistered, learning just how physically demanding rice farming actually is. Somsak watched me work for hours without complaint, even though I was clearly slowing everyone down. At the end of the day, he clapped me on the shoulder and said something to Ploy that made her beam with pride. "He says you work like a Thai man," she translated. "He says maybe you're not as soft as most foreigners." By the third day, I was helping with morning chores, learning to ride a motorbike without killing myself, and attempting to eat some tam spicy enough to kill a horse. Meili started teaching me basic Thai phrases, laughing at my pronunciation, but patiently correcting me until I could at least say hello, thank you, and excuse me, without embarrassing myself completely. The real breakthrough came when Meili got sick with food poisoning from something at a village celebration. It hit her hard, and she was violently ill for most of the night. I stayed up with Ploy and her father, helping to care for her, bringing water, helping her to the bathroom when she was too weak to walk alone, holding her hair back when she was sick, not because I was trying to impress anyone, but because it was simply the right thing to do. The next morning, Meili hugged me tight, tears in her eyes, and said something to Ploy that I could tell was important. "My mother says you have a good heart," Ploy told me. "She says maybe you're different from the other foreign men she's heard about." Niran, Ploy's younger brother, became my bridge to understanding the family dynamics. He was 19, brilliant at mathematics, and had been accepted to study engineering at university, largely thanks to Ploy's sacrifices. His English was excellent, and he helped me understand not just the language, but the culture. "My sister never buys anything for herself," he told me as we walked through the village one evening. "Always family first, always others first. I tell her she's too generous, that she needs to think about her own future. But that's who she is. She's been taking care of all of us since she was 20. "What do you think of me being here?" I asked him directly. He was quiet for a long time. "I think," he said finally, "that my sister is smart enough to know her own heart. But I also think you need to understand that if you hurt her, you hurt all of us. She's not just choosing you. She's asking all of us to trust you." The weight of that responsibility hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about Ploy and me. It was about her entire family's trust and honor. Back in Manchester a week later, everything felt wrong. The grey sky, the cold, the loneliness, but mostly the growing certainty that I was living the wrong life in the wrong place with the wrong priorities. My house felt like a prison. My comfortable routine felt like sleepwalking. Ploy and I talked every day now, sometimes for hours. She was finishing her literature degree and had been accepted to a nursing program at Chiang Mai University. Her dream of teaching had evolved into wanting to help people more directly through healthcare. "Why nursing?" I asked during one of our video calls. "Because literature taught me about human suffering," she said. "All the great stories are about people in pain, trying to make sense of their lives. But nursing lets me actually do something about suffering, not just read about it." 6 months later, I made the decision that changed everything. I contacted my firm about early retirement, put my house on the market, and started the complex visa process to move to Thailand permanently. Not to Pattaya, we both agreed we wanted a fresh start somewhere new. Chiang Mai, where Ploy would pursue her nursing degree, and I would figure out what to do with the rest of my life. The reaction from friends and family back home was brutal and immediate. My brother Richard called me 3 times in one day. "David," he said on the final call, his voice a mix of frustration and genuine concern. "You've lost your bloody mind. You're moving to Thailand for a bar girl you've known for 6 months. This is textbook midlife crisis behavior." My sister Emma was even more direct. "She's using you, David," she said during a tense lunch in London. "Can't you see that? You're probably not the only foreign boyfriend. She's probably got 3 other men sending her money right now." The expat forums online were a chorus of warnings and doom. "Classic mistake, mate," wrote one user. "Give it 2 years maximum. She'll clean you out and disappear. They're all playing the long game." "You're thinking with the wrong head," wrote another. "Thai women are experts at manipulation. She's telling you exactly what you want to hear." The doubt crept in like poison. What if they were right? What if I was being naive? What if this was all an elaborate long con, and I was just another stupid old fool about to lose everything? I called Ploy one night, probably sounding like a crazy person, my voice shaking with uncertainty and fear. "Everyone thinks I'm making a mistake," I told her. "Everyone thinks you're using me." Silence on the other end of the line, long enough that I thought the call had dropped. "David," she said finally, her voice soft but steady. "Maybe you are making a mistake. I don't know the future. I can't promise you everything will be perfect. But I know my heart. Do you know yours?" It was that simple and that complicated. "Yes," I said. "I know my heart." "Then come home," she said. Home. She'd called Thailand home, and somehow that felt exactly right. Moving to Thailand permanently was like learning to live again from scratch. New language, new culture, new bureaucracy that made British red tape look simple by comparison. But also, new possibilities, new energy, new hope that I hadn't felt in decades. The visa process alone nearly broke my spirit. Multiple trips to the Thai embassy in London, mountains of paperwork, bank statements, medical certificates, background checks, then more paperwork in Thailand, immigration offices, extensions, 90-day reporting requirements. It was like being processed through some kind of administrative purgatory. But Ploy was incredible throughout the entire process. She helped me navigate every requirement, translated documents, accompanied me to government offices, found us a small house to rent near the university. She was starting her intensive nursing program while I was still figuring out what the hell I was going to do with the rest of my life. The first year was really hard. Harder than I'd expected. I felt useless most of the time, dependent on Ploy for everything from ordering food to understanding basic social interactions. She was excelling in her studies, making friends, building a career and a future, while I was struggling to function as a basic adult in a new culture. Learning Thai was humbling in ways I hadn't anticipated. At 53, my brain didn't absorb languages the way it might have when I was younger. Simple conversations that Ploy could have in 3 languages left me feeling frustrated and stupid. I'd study for hours and still sound like a toddler trying to ask for directions to the bathroom. The cultural differences were subtle but constant. Different concepts of time, different approaches to conflict resolution, different expectations about family involvement in personal decisions. Things that seemed normal to Ploy felt foreign and sometimes uncomfortable to me. The lowest point came about 8 months after I'd moved to Chiang Mai. I'd gotten a serious case of food poisoning from street food that my Western stomach couldn't handle, and I was lying in bed feeling sorry for myself, weak and miserable, and questioning every decision that had brought me to this point. That's when I overheard Ploy on the phone with her mother. My Thai was good enough by then to understand the general conversation, and what I heard made my blood run cold. "He's sad all the time," she was saying. "I don't know how to help him. He misses his old life, his country, his language. Maybe this was a mistake." I thought she was talking about me being a mistake, about our relationship being something she regretted. I was ready to pack my bags and slink back to Manchester with my tail between my legs. But then I heard her voice break slightly as she said, "I love him, but I don't know if love is enough. I don't know if I'm enough to make him happy here." That's when I realized she wasn't giving up on me. She was scared that she wasn't enough for me, that I would regret my decision and blame her for it. We had our first real fight that night. Not yelling or screaming, but the kind of honest, painful conversation that either breaks a relationship or makes it stronger. We talked about expectations and fears, and whether we were both crazy for trying to build something so unlikely. "I'm not your rehabilitation project," she said, her eyes flashing with anger and hurt. "And you're not mine. We both have to choose this every day, not just once." She was absolutely right. I'd been treating the move to Thailand like an escape from my old life, instead of a commitment to building a new one. I'd been passive, waiting for happiness to find me, instead of actively creating it. The next day, I started volunteering at a local English school, teaching conversation classes to Thai students preparing for university entrance exams. The day after that, I enrolled in intensive Thai language classes with other expats. A week later, I joined a hiking group and stopped feeling sorry for myself. Slowly, very slowly, I began to build a life in Thailand that was mine, not just an extension of Ploy's world. I made friends, found purpose, discovered that I actually enjoyed teaching. My Thai improved enough that I could have basic conversations with Ploy's family without constant translation. Most importantly, I stopped seeing Thailand as a place I was visiting and started seeing it as home. 2 years after I'd moved to Chiang Mai, Ploy graduated from nursing school at the top of her class. I watched her walk across that stage in her crisp white uniform, and I'd never been prouder of another human being in my life. She'd balanced an incredibly demanding program with supporting me through my adjustment period, and she'd excelled at both. She got a job at McCormick Hospital in the pediatric ward. Watching her with those sick children, patient and gentle, switching effortlessly between Thai and English to comfort scared families, I knew I was witnessing someone who had found her true calling. It was around this time that I realized I wanted to spend the rest of my life supporting this remarkable woman's dreams and ambitions. I proposed on a weekend trip back to her village during the rice planting season when the whole family was together. Not with some grand romantic gesture, but quietly, after dinner with her parents and siblings, with everyone we loved around us. "Ploy," I said in Thai, which made her parents beam with pride at my improved language skills. "Will you build a life with me? Will you marry me?" she cried. Happy tears, scared tears, tears of relief and joy and terror all mixed together. "Yes," she said, switching to English, "but I want to keep my name. I want to stay Ploy Srisombat, not become Ploy Thompson." "I wouldn't have it any other way," I told her. We had 2 weddings, which seemed to satisfy everyone's cultural expectations while honoring both of our backgrounds. First, a traditional Thai ceremony in her village that lasted 3 days and involved more rituals than I could keep track of. Monks chanting blessings, elaborate traditional costumes, the whole village celebrating with us. Ploy looked absolutely stunning in traditional Thai silk, and I felt honored to be welcomed so completely into her family and community. The second ceremony was a smaller affair in Chiang Mai for our friends there, mixing Thai and Western traditions in ways that probably horrified purists, but felt perfect to us. My brother Richard flew in from England, and I could see him struggling to understand how this had become my life, but he was gracious and kind to Ploy. The first 2 years of marriage were an adjustment period, as I imagine they are for most couples. We had to learn to live together as husband and wife, not just as boyfriend and girlfriend. Different expectations about household responsibilities, about money management, about how much time to spend with extended family. Ploy was incredibly dedicated to her work at the hospital, often working 12-hour shifts, coming home exhausted, but still insisting on cooking dinner and asking about my day. I was teaching English classes and had started a small consulting business, helping other expats navigate the visa and tax requirements for living in Thailand long-term. We argued sometimes about money. Ploy felt obligated to send a portion of her salary to her parents and to help pay for Niran's engineering studies. I thought she was being too generous, that she needed to save more for our own future. It took time for me to understand that family obligations in Thai culture are different from Western individualism, and that her generosity was part of what made her who she was. We also had to navigate the ongoing skepticism from both cultures. Some of my expat friends still made comments about Thai wives and gold diggers. Some of Ploy's Thai friends questioned why she'd chosen an older foreign man instead of someone from her own culture and generation. But we worked through each challenge together, building trust and understanding day by day. The birth of our daughter Nim, 3 years after we married, was the single happiest day of my life. Watching Ploy go through pregnancy and childbirth, seeing her transform into a mother, witnessing the pride and joy in her parents' eyes as they held their first grandchild, I felt like the luckiest man who had ever lived. Nim was born bilingual, switching effortlessly between Thai and English, depending on who she was talking to. By age 3, she was helping translate conversations between me and her Thai grandparents, giggling at my pronunciation mistakes, but patiently correcting me. Ploy managed to balance her demanding career with raising Nim, often staying up late to study for additional nursing certifications, while I handled bedtime stories and morning breakfast routines. She was promoted twice in her first 5 years at the hospital, eventually becoming head nurse of the pediatric ward. Last year, at age 38, Ploy was accepted to a master's degree program to become a nurse practitioner, specializing in pediatric care. She wants to focus on rural health outreach, bringing medical care to villages that don't have regular access to hospitals or clinics. "I want to help kids like I was," she told me when she got the acceptance letter. Kids whose families can't afford to travel to the city for healthcare. Watching her pursue this dream, seeing her dedication to helping others, I'm reminded every day why I fell in love with her in the first place. Nim is 8 now, trilingual in Thai, English, and Mandarin, which she's learning at school. She wants to be a doctor like her mother, but also loves art and music. She's proud of her mixed heritage, comfortable in both cultures, the kind of global citizen I never imagined I'd help raise. People still make assumptions about us when they see us together. I notice the looks when we're out as a family, the older foreign man with the younger Thai woman, and their mixed-race daughter. Some people will always see a transaction where there's actually a partnership built on mutual respect and genuine love. But I know what I see when I look at Ploy. I see the woman who stayed up all night when I had dengue fever, taking my temperature every hour and making sure I stayed hydrated. I see the mother who works double shifts at the hospital and still finds energy to help Nim with her homework. I see the daughter who calls her parents every Sunday and sends money home not because she has to, but because she wants to honor the sacrifices they made for her education. I see the wife who could have married any number of younger, richer, more handsome men, Thai or foreign, but chose to build a life with a broken-down British accountant who was stupid enough to almost walk away because he was afraid of what other people might think. 10 years later, I can tell you this. Every warning I received was wrong about Ploy specifically, but probably right about relationships in general. Not all Thai-Western relationships work out. Not all bar girls are looking for true love. Not all middle-aged Western men are ready for the cultural challenges of building a life in Southeast Asia. But some are. Some relationships do work. Some love stories that seem impossible from the outside are actually the most real thing you'll ever experience. The mistake I almost made wasn't falling in love with a Thai woman I met in a bar. The mistake I almost made was listening to other people's fears instead of trusting my own heart. If you're listening to this and you're in a similar situation, I can't tell you what to do. Every situation is different. Every person is different. But I can tell you this. Don't let other people's bitterness and disappointment rob you of a chance at genuine happiness. The skeptics were right about one thing. Thailand did change me. It made me a better man, a better husband, a better father than I ever was in England. It taught me that love isn't about age or nationality or what other people think. It's about finding someone who sees the best version of yourself and helps you become that person. Ploy didn't save me from my old life. We saved each other. We built something new together, something that belongs to both of us, and neither of us completely. Tonight, after Nim goes to bed and Ploy finishes studying for her practitioner exams, we'll sit on our small balcony overlooking the mountains around Chiang Mai, drinking jasmine tea and talking about our day. It's become our ritual, this quiet time together at the end of each day. Sometimes we plan weekend trips to visit her family in the village. Sometimes we discuss Nim's education and whether we should consider international schools. Sometimes we just sit in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of the city settling into evening. These are the moments that make all the doubt and struggle worthwhile. These ordinary, precious moments that add up to a life well lived. But let me be completely honest about the challenges we still face, because this isn't a fairy tale, and I don't want to mislead anyone into thinking that love conquers all without effort and compromise. The cultural differences don't disappear just because you love someone. They become part of your daily reality. Ploy's concept of extended family involvement in our decisions sometimes feels overwhelming to my British sensibilities. When we were deciding whether to buy a house or continue renting, her parents, 3 aunts, 2 uncles, and various cousins all had opinions they felt entitled to share. In England, that kind of family involvement might be seen as intrusive. In Thai culture, it's normal and expected. I've learned to navigate this by understanding that the advice comes from love and concern, not from a desire to control our lives. But it took years to reach that level of acceptance, and I still occasionally feel frustrated by what seems like a lack of privacy in important decisions. Money remains an ongoing conversation in our marriage, not because we don't have enough, but because we have different cultural approaches to financial responsibility. Ploy's commitment to supporting her family financially never wavered, even after we married and had Nim. She sends money home every month, pays for Niran's engineering textbooks, and recently helped fund repairs to her parents' house after a storm damaged the roof. Early in our marriage, I sometimes felt resentful about this. Money that could have gone toward our savings or Nim's education fund was going to her extended family. It felt, to my Western mindset, like we were being taken advantage of. But over time, I've come to understand that this generosity is part of what makes Ploy who she is. The same woman who sends money to her parents without question is the woman who works extra shifts when a colleague's child is sick, who brings leftover dinner to our elderly neighbor every few days, who volunteers at the local orphanage on her rare days off. You can't love someone's generosity when it benefits you, but resent it when it benefits others. Either you accept the whole person, or you don't really accept them at all. The age difference between us becomes more noticeable as the years pass. I'm 62 now, and Ploy is 38. When we met, the 14-year gap felt manageable. Now, as I start to slow down physically while she's still in her prime, I sometimes worry about the future. I've had 2 minor health scares in the past 3 years. Nothing serious, but enough to remind me that I'm likely to need increasing medical care as I age, while Ploy is still young enough to want adventures and new experiences. We've talked about this honestly, and she insists that she knew what she was signing up for when she married me. But I know she didn't really know. None of us can fully prepare for the realities of aging and caregiving until we're living them. The racism we encounter, while not constant, is real and sometimes painful. Not just from other foreigners who make assumptions about our relationship, but occasionally from Thai people who question Ploy's choices or treat me with suspicion because of stereotypes about Western men in Thailand. Last year, a Thai woman at Nim's school made a comment to another parent about those foreign men who come here to buy Thai wives. The comment got back to Ploy, and I could see how much it hurt her. She spent 10 years building a reputation as a dedicated nurse and mother, only to have someone reduce her to that tired stereotype. but she handled it with more grace than I would have. She invited the woman for coffee and a conversation about her work at the hospital, about her master's degree program, about her family and her goals. By the end of their talk, the woman apologized and admitted she'd been unfair. That's who Ploy is. She meets ignorance with education, assumptions with facts, stereotypes with her own authentic story. Nim is growing up bicultural, which brings both advantages and challenges. She's comfortable in both worlds, but sometimes feels like she doesn't fully belong to either. Other Thai children sometimes tease her about her foreign father or her lighter skin. Foreign children at international events sometimes question her Thai identity because she doesn't fit their preconceptions of what a Thai child should look like. We're helping her navigate these identity questions by celebrating both sides of her heritage. She spends school holidays in the village with her Thai grandparents, learning traditional crafts and helping with rice farming. She also video calls regularly with her uncle Richard in England, practicing her British accent and learning about her father's cultural background. Last month, she had to do a school project about family traditions. She chose to present about rice blessing ceremonies from her Thai heritage and Christmas morning traditions from her British heritage. Watching her confidently explain both cultures to her classmates, I realized that what sometimes feels like a disadvantage, this not quite belonging anywhere feeling, might actually be her greatest strength. She's learning to create her own identity that honors both cultures without being limited by either. The question I get asked most often by other expats is whether I regret my decision to move to Thailand and marry Ploy. The honest answer is complicated. Do I miss certain things about England? Absolutely. I miss the subtle humor, the shared cultural references, the ease of navigating systems I understood instinctively. I miss Yorkshire pudding and proper cheddar cheese and pubs where everyone knows your name. I miss being able to express myself with complete fluency instead of sometimes struggling to find the right words in Thai. But regret? Never regret, because what I gained has been immeasurably greater than what I left behind. I gained a partnership with someone who challenges me to be better than I am, who supports my dreams while pursuing her own, who loves me not despite my flaws, but as a complete person, flaws included. I gained a family that welcomed me, not because I was rich or foreign, but because I treated their daughter with respect and proved my commitment through actions, not just words. I gained a daughter who is growing up with a global perspective, comfortable with complexity, unafraid of difference, bilingual and bicultural in ways that will serve her well in an increasingly connected world. Most importantly, I gained a second chance at life when I thought it was too late for second chances. The expat community in Chiang Mai is full of men who come to Thailand looking for something they couldn't find at home. Some find it, some don't. Some think they've found it, but discover they were chasing an illusion. The ones who succeed, from what I've observed, are the ones who come not to escape their problems, but to build solutions. They learn the language, respect the culture, integrate into the community, instead of trying to recreate their home country in Southeast Asia. They also tend to be the ones who see their Thai partners as complete human beings with their own dreams and ambitions, not as exotic fantasies or convenient solutions to loneliness. I've watched too many relationships fail because the Western man expected his Thai partner to be eternally grateful, perpetually deferential, content to exist in the shadow of his needs and desires. Those relationships inevitably implode when reality meets expectation. Ploy was never looking for a savior, and I wasn't qualified to be one anyway. She was looking for a partner, and I was lucky enough to be ready to be one. 3 months ago, Ploy was accepted to present her research on rural pediatric healthcare at an international nursing conference in Singapore. She was terrified and excited in equal measure. It was her first time presenting to an international audience, her first time being recognized as an expert in her field. I watched her practice her presentation dozens of times, helped her refine her English pronunciation, encouraged her when she worried she wasn't qualified to be there. On the day of her presentation, I sat in the audience beaming with pride as she confidently shared her research with nurses and doctors from around the world. Afterward, several attendees approached her with questions and collaboration opportunities. One doctor from a rural health organization in the Philippines asked if she'd be interested in consulting on their pediatric outreach programs. That night, in our Singapore hotel room, she was so excited she could barely sleep. "David," she said, "I never imagined this was possible. A girl from a rice farming village presenting research to doctors from Harvard and Johns Hopkins." "You earned this," I told her. "Every late night studying, every double shift at the hospital, every sacrifice you made for your education. This is what all that work was for." She cried then, happy tears, the tears of someone who has achieved something she barely dared to dream. These are the moments that make everything else worthwhile. Not the romantic moments, though those matter too, but the moments when you witness someone you love achieving their highest potential. Next year, Ploy will complete her nurse practitioner degree and begin working with a rural health initiative, bringing medical care to remote villages in northern Thailand. She's already planning mobile clinics that will travel to communities that currently have no access to pediatric specialists. It's exactly the kind of work she dreamed about when she was studying literature in that Pattaya bar 10 years ago, reading about human suffering and wanting to do something meaningful about it. Nim is excelling in school and has already announced her intention to become a doctor like her mother, though she changes her specialty preference monthly. Last week, she wanted to be a veterinarian. This week, she's interested in becoming a surgeon. Next week, it will probably be something else entirely. What matters isn't what career she eventually chooses, but that she's growing up believing she can choose anything, that her gender, her mixed heritage, her mother's background, none of that limits her possibilities. As for me, I've found unexpected fulfillment in teaching and in helping other expats navigate life in Thailand. What started as volunteer work has evolved into a small business, providing consultation and support services for foreigners moving to Southeast Asia. I help people understand not just the visa requirements and tax implications, but the cultural adjustments that no guidebook can prepare you for. I share my own mistakes and successes, helping others avoid some of the pitfalls I stumbled into during my early years here. It's satisfying work, using my experience to help others build successful lives in their adopted country. And it's taught me that my story, while unique in its details, follows patterns that many cross-cultural relationships experience. The couples that thrive are the ones who approach their differences with curiosity rather than judgment, who see cultural gaps as opportunities to learn rather than obstacles to overcome. They're willing to be uncomfortable while they adjust, patient with themselves and their partners during the inevitable misunderstandings. Most importantly, they're both willing to change, not to become different people, but to become expanded versions of themselves. Looking back on the past 10 years, I can see how both Ploy and I have evolved. She's become more confident in expressing her needs and desires, less willing to sacrifice her own goals for others' expectations. Her success in nursing has given her a sense of professional identity that's entirely her own, separate from her role as wife or mother or daughter. I've become more flexible, more open to different ways of thinking and living. The rigid structures that defined my life in England, the need to control and predict everything, have given way to a more fluid approach to life. I've learned to find joy in spontaneity, to appreciate the beauty of imperfection, to value relationships over achievements. We've both become more ourselves, not less, through our marriage. But I want to be clear about something, because I think it's important for anyone listening who might be in a similar situation. This outcome wasn't guaranteed. It required work, compromise, patience, and luck. Lots of luck. We could have easily become another cautionary tale. There were moments when we almost did. The key factors that made our relationship work weren't romantic or mystical. They were practical and intentional. First, we both entered the relationship with realistic expectations. I wasn't looking for a fantasy, and she wasn't looking for a rescue. We were both looking for partnership. Second, we invested in understanding each other's cultures and languages. I learned Thai, she perfected her English, and we both studied each other's cultural contexts until we could navigate both worlds comfortably. Third, we maintained our individual identities and goals. Ploy never stopped pursuing her education and career ambitions. I never stopped being interested in books and teaching and helping others. We supported each other's dreams instead of sacrificing them for the relationship. Fourth, we built a support system that included people from both cultures. We have friends who are Thai, friends who are Western expats, friends who are in similar cross-cultural relationships. This prevented us from becoming isolated or overly dependent on each other for all our social and emotional needs. Finally, we communicated constantly and honestly about our challenges. When cultural differences created conflict, we talked through them instead of pretending they didn't exist. When family obligations felt overwhelming, we negotiated compromises that respected both our needs. When the age difference or health concerns worried us, we addressed those fears directly. None of this was automatic or easy. It required conscious effort and ongoing commitment from both of us. The fairy tale version of this story would end with, "And they lived happily ever after." The real version is that we're living happily right now, today, with no guarantees about tomorrow, but with confidence in our ability to handle whatever comes next. Because that's what 10 years of marriage has taught us. Not that love conquers all, but that love plus commitment, plus hard work, plus mutual respect can overcome most obstacles. We still have challenges ahead of us. My aging, Nim's adolescence, Ploy's demanding career, the ongoing cultural navigation that never completely ends. But we face these challenges as a team, with a decade of problem-solving experience behind us. Next month, we're planning a trip back to England so Nim can meet her British relatives and see where her father grew up. It will be my first time back in 5 years, and I'm curious to see how England feels now that Thailand is home. I suspect it will feel like visiting a foreign country, which would be the ultimate irony. The place I was born and lived for 52 years feeling foreign, while the place I met my wife in a bar 10 years ago feels like home. But that's how life works, isn't it? Home isn't where you're from. Home is where you choose to build your life, where you invest your love, where you create meaning and purpose and family. Home is where someone knows how you take your coffee in the morning and still finds you interesting enough to talk to at the end of the day. Home is where your child feels safe and loved and confident about her place in the world. Home is where you can be completely yourself, flaws and all, and still be accepted and cherished. For me, home is a small house in Chiang Mai with a woman who still reads literature in her spare time, still works 12-hour shifts caring for sick children, still calls her parents every Sunday, and still makes the best green curry in northern Thailand. Home is where a daughter practices piano while her mother studies for graduate school exams, and her father grades English papers, where 3 different languages are spoken at the dinner table, where Thai and British and completely original family traditions blend into something uniquely ours. If you're listening to this story and wondering whether to take a similar leap of faith in your own life, I can't tell you what to do. Every situation is different. Every person is different. Every relationship requires its own unique combination of courage and wisdom and timing. But I can tell you this: the biggest risk isn't making the wrong choice. The biggest risk is not making any choice at all, letting fear and other people's opinions keep you from pursuing genuine connection and authentic happiness. 10 years ago, I was a broken man in an empty house, drinking expensive whiskey and Googling ways to end my pain. Today, I'm sitting in my kitchen in Thailand, watching my daughter practice piano while my wife cooks dinner after saving children's lives at the hospital. That transformation didn't happen because I was brave or special or particularly wise. It happened because I was lucky enough to meet someone extraordinary in an ordinary place, and smart enough to recognize that what other people thought about us mattered less than what we thought about each other. Sometimes the best decisions of your life look like mistakes to everyone else. Sometimes the love of your life is waiting in the last place you'd think to look. Sometimes the second half of your life can be better than the first half if you're willing to take risks and do the work and trust that love, real love, is worth whatever it costs. I married a Thai bar girl 10 years ago. Today, I'm married to a nurse practitioner, a mother, a daughter, a friend, a partner, and the strongest person I've ever known. She just happens to be the same person. The only thing that changed was my ability to see her clearly, without the filter of other people's assumptions and fears. That's the real story. Not about Thai women or Western men or cross-cultural relationships or any of the categories people use to make sense of love that doesn't fit their expectations. It's about two people who found each other at the right time, in the right place, with the right combination of hope and desperation and willingness to build something new together. 10 years later, I'd do it again. Every difficult day, every cultural misunderstanding, every moment of doubt and fear and uncertainty. I'd do it all again, because the life we built together is worth every challenge we face to create it. And if that's not a happy ending, it's at least a happy continuation. The story goes on. Every morning when we wake up and choose each other again. Every evening when we sit on our balcony and plan tomorrow. Every day that we prove that love isn't about where you come from, or how you meet, or what other people think. Love is about where you're going, together, one choice at a time. That's our story. 10 years later, still being written, still worth telling, still worth living. Thank you for listening.